Hi everyone, this is Kevin Dart from the Fastener Lab, and in this video I just want to show you how to import Illustrator files into Rhino files and just some things to look out for. So right here we have this Illustrator file. It's just a letter, and my goal is to just bring this into Rhino so that I can then laser cut it. And that's most likely why you're bringing something from Illustrator into Rhino, is either you want to laser cut something or you want to use some other digital fabrication tool to make whatever you want from an Illustrator file. So this is a good example. And one big thing we want to make sure is that when we're importing Illustrator files is that we have vector outputs, or vector lines, things like that. And right now these are just big blocks, but when I import them into Rhino, what you'll see is you're just going to get the outline of everything. So one thing you want to make sure is that you just have the outlines of your objects. So I can check that by going up to View and looking at Outline Mode. And we can see that this file is pretty good. And we can also check our artboard size. And the reason we want to do that is because we want to make sure that we're importing things in the right scale. If we don't import things in the right scale, things can change in Rhino. It could be smaller or larger. But we can see here that I'm working in inches, which is exactly what we want. And if I look at the artboard, I can come up here and I'm 15 by 15 is the size of the artboard, which is good. I'm going to hit Escape. And so when I open up Rhino, I'm just going to go ahead and open it up. It's going to bring up this window for Mac. I'm just going to click Show Templates, and I'm going to go to Small Object in Inches. I'm going to double click that. And the Rhino window will pop up. Now, because this is only a 2D object, I'm only going to be working in the top view, or the XY coordinate plane. So I'm just going to double click on top so I can expand that. I can zoom in and out with the scroll button. I can pan with the right mouse button as well. And I can come up here to File, Import, and find my Illustrator file. Okay. And then it's going to come up here and it's going to give me options and say standard scaling or custom scaling. I want to do custom scaling. And that's so the file retains its units and its scaling. So I'm just going to hit import, and we can see that it comes up here. Now, for example, let's see. I want to make a bounding box, or essentially a box the same size as, say, for example, my material or whatever I might be cutting. And the way I like to do that is I just like to come up here to this rectangle tool. I'm going to click it, and it's going to ask me for the first corner of the rectangle. I like to pick 0 because it's a really good way to start. It's a good reference point. And then I can click the other point, the other corner of the rectangle, or I can type in a number for the length. I'm just going to type in 24, and I'm going to type in 18 for the height, because 24 by 18 is the max size of our laser cutting bed. So I want to cut this to be a really big letter. All right, so then if I wanted to cut just this letter, I would be good to go. And if this was my material size, I'd be good to go to my printer properties and set up the laser for cutting and whatnot. Or if I wanted to cut it out of steel or use the CNC router, I can go do those things. But now I want to show you what a bad file looks like in case that happens. So I'm going to come back here to Illustrator, and I'm going to look at this file. Now it looks like it's good to go, but if I look at the outline view, we can see here that we've got some overlapping things. It just doesn't work. I don't know if there are any extra lines or anything like that. But I'm just going to import it into Rhino and see what happens. So I'm going to come up here to File, I'm going to say Import, and I'm going to look for that bad file. Open. And so I'm going to not do standard scaling, but see what happens in case you don't do that. And I hit import, and it's going to come up with this huge letter right here. So also, if your scaling is off in the artboard or anything like that, it will probably change and be what you don't want it to be. So I'm going to move this over here. And the first thing I need to do is I need to scale it. So I'm going to come up here to transform at the very top. I'm going to say scale 2D. And that's going to scale this in the X and Y direction at the same time. Now over here in the command line, it's going to ask me for a point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my snaps down here. Now in the PC version, it's a little different. Your snaps are down here instead of on the side. But I'm just going to say snap to the intersection. And that'll snap to anywhere where you have intersecting lines. So I'm just going to click here as my first reference point. Then it's going to ask you for a second reference point. And I'm just going to pick the top here because the reason I'm picking the top there is so I can scale it up and down or vertically. So I'm just going to pick that, and then it's going to ask me for a third point, which is pretty much the scaling factor in this situation. Or I can, if I wanted to, I can type in a number and change it. For example, if I wanted this to be exactly 10 inches tall, I could come over here and I can say 10, and bam, it'll automatically move it to 10 inches. So now one thing is I don't have that outline. Now if you specifically want these overlapping blocks, then that's fine. But I just wanted one single object, essentially. So I'm going to combine these curves or these areas into one area. So I'm going to first click the curves that I want. So I'm going to click here, and I notice right immediately that I've got double curves because when I click one curve, it's giving me the option to click or select one of these other curves. But I only need one of them, so I can just delete the other one. Now sometimes what you can do is you can type in here, select duplicates. If I do select dupe, it'll select any duplicates. Now I deleted that one. I brought it back. And if I do the select duplicates again, it's not showing up because it's not exactly the same curve. It might be really close and on top of each other, but it's not the same. So I'm just going to delete that one. All right. So now what I can do is I'm going to select the curves that I want to, or the shapes that I want to combine. So I'm going to select these two shapes. I'm going to come up here to curve, curve edit tools, curve boolean, and then I'm just going to select those areas. And you see once I select that area, it's going to automatically select the outline. If I select this one, it's automatically going to combine it. So then I can hit enter, and I've got my one curve. Now I have to go back and make sure I delete those other curves. There we go. Now these are also little free floating. Oops. I'm just going to hit done there. So what I can do is I can join them all, not join them all together because they're not connected at their intersecting points here, but I can group them together with what looks like a Venn diagram here, these three bubbles. I can group those. And that way when I move it around, I'm moving all of the objects at once. So that's it for this. Now you can do this all on the Mac in the Mac lab and then bring it down to the DigiFab lab and set up your file there for whatever sort of digital fabrication tool you need. But you want to make sure you just want to save it, and you're good to go. And that's it. Thanks for watching.